Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope here,
7
but
What we
envelope
could do
in
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All three pitches of envelope and darkness.
Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast, or maybe we're the envelope podcast, just to really upset everybody. But my name's Cody. I am joined today by Dan, Lucas, and then the man of the hour. We have Ethan poolside hanging out, Mr. Levi himself. I'm
Pina
going to
colada
always
off
say it,
screen as
Levi.
well.
But before we get into the exciting realm updates that we have, I figure we can go around, say a little bit about yourself for people who don't know. This is our, first ever podcast as a team. But if Dan, if you want to start off.
Yeah, for sure. What's up, everybody? I'm Daniel Rakowski, as Cody said. I've been a Flesh and Blood gamer for like 2.5 years, I think, since Monarch Unlimited. I helped form and establish the Runaways and grow it to what it is now with the help of all these guys and the rest of the team. I did pretty well in a couple big events last year. Fourth place at Worlds, second at Nationals. And now I just like to play Max.
You were the Phi guy, and now you're the
That's
Max guy.
important. Yeah, I was the Phi guy.
Yeah.
I might still be. I'm not really sure. I don't really play Phi much anymore, but now Max is my best friend, I guess.
Sweet. Lucas?
Hi guys, I'm Lucas Oswald. I've been playing Flesh and Blood for a couple of years since around the same time that Dan started. I've been a member of the Runaways since Pro Tour 3. This year in Fab, I've had a few results with calling top 8 at US Nationals top 8 and then a couple Battle Hardened wins. And now I am a Prism main. So, yep.
You did bring Prism.
That's me.
You did have that
Poor
good
soul.
win on stream.
I did, yeah. I won that. If
Yeah.
anybody was confused, I've had a lot of people asking me whether I won the
Yeah.
game or not. It was unclear.
Sweet. And then I guess I'm up next.
Yeah.
Well, I'm someone who wins have been very elusive these past couple of years that I've played Fab. But this was a very good weekend for me, so I'm back to being talk of the town, baby. I'm Mansant, the top 4 Levi player that you might have seen from the Realm Rumble this past weekend. It's been a long time coming. I had a couple PQ wins, a couple RTN wins with her, but never really scratched the top cuts of any of these other bigger events yet until now. So I'm feeling good. This is my year, people, and it's been a long time coming. I've been playing Flesh and Blood since basically Crucible Unlimited came out in the US. It was like kind of where I really kicked off. So that was like late summer, like 2 years ago, something like that. And I've just been obsessed with levia ever since.
Sweet. You did have a great showing this weekend. Finally showed everyone that levia is a real deck. I have been saying the same thing, I think, since a little bit before Worlds. You and I have been talking about how great levia actually is. It is my deck until heavy hitters, and hopefully after heavy hitters. We'll see what we get on that set. But I am Cody. I was once good at this game back when Chain was around, and that is what most people know me for. Now I just scrub around the cache in most majors, and hopefully I find a deck eventually that lets me break back through. But intros out of the way, let's talk a little bit about news for this week before we jump into the realm. The big news this week is LL changes in Blitz. We finally have gotten rid of Ira. Ira, who has been around for pretty much the entire length of the game, finally gone. You can play value decks again. Everyone can play value Blitz decks if they want. They don't immediately lose to Ira just decking them out and going block, Kadachi, big swing. So what do we think? What do we think of Ira being gone?
Well, it's caused a lot of confusion. I've seen on Twitter people asking, "Are the welcome decks still legal?" I would hope there's. I mean, come on, that's truly one of the best ways to intro people to the game is those Ira decks, and it will be a bit confusing now to tell people, well, hold up, kind of the buck stops there. You can play this intro format. You can't really take her to Blitz. You can play her in UPF, but you can't take her to Blitz, and then she doesn't even exist in adult form at all. So I'm hoping that because of the LL there, they do bring her back in some capacity. She's such a mainstay, like face and name in Flesh and Blood. I will miss her.
So what you're saying is they need to make new welcome decks.
Oh yeah, Yeah, forget this like 3 of thing. That right, because like those came out when Blitz didn't even exist yet, so they're still a bit funky. Sure.
Yeah, so LSS, you have to make new welcome decks because you banned your girl. Ira's gone. So, yeah, that's the next step. I think it opens up a lot for Blitz, personally.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like those mid-rangey decks that just can't play the game because Ira just outvalues you at all times. It's been said a bunch, if Ira was legal in CC, it would be a very highly played deck. And that's, something a little different from Blitz to CC is most of the time the Blitz decks don't transfer, but this would be one of the ones that I think would take over CC if it existed. I think it frees up a lot, and in the last couple of weeks we've seen a ton of things LL, so it's been a bunch of shakeup. But anyone else have any thoughts on Ira going away?
Do you guys think we get a Blitz LL format or tournament
I hope so.
in the future?
I think that'd be
I
cool.
hope not.
I feel like we must,
excuses to play
no?
Blitz.
Yeah, I don't think we'd see a whole lot of Ira, but I think it'd be an interesting format to
That's
play.
fair.
It would be nothing but Viserai, and Yanji would win every event again.
Yeah,
So
all Viserai.
No, I think these LLs are like super healthy. Like the Blitz format has been. Has anything LL'd before, like the past season?
Yeah, I mean,
think
we had
just,
Oldham,
Oldham and
Icelander, and
Icelander?
Viserai were the big three that LL.
Sure. Yeah, it's just been so slow otherwise. I feel like
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Make Max more playable in that format.
Yeah, I mean the few callings that Blitz actually had were team events, so they didn't even award LL points. So
yeah, and they did critically remove a Blitz as part of the Worlds format this year, right? So the kind of the heavy injection of points into the format, a lot of people thought would be lacking, and then with the skirmish now like awarding like 4 points per win or something.
yeah,
We're seeing not just like what an extra 200 points to the top deck would do, but now with all of that kind of spread around the pool, there were a lot of decks that were really close. So I'm a big fan, honestly, of how fast it's moving because I wouldn't really go out of my way to play Blitz too often, but with the variety and kind of the speed at which it's changing, it kind of sparks that creative like deck building part of me that wants to try a new format this week, a new format this week, a new format this week, which probably doesn't appeal to everyone, but I find it pretty fun, I think.
I mean, there's still like 30 heroes left that's playable in Blitz. It's like ridiculous, the amount of things you can play. I know in my skirmish this weekend, I'm playing Levia, so that'll be fun. Unless Reinar for some reason steals me back, but it's probably just going to be Levia.
Yeah, and I think having your local Blitz scene not be stale is like a huge gain.
So we are going to do a one-time section. I know it's the first podcast, but we're going to do a section only one time, maybe. And it's Dan really hates a card and just really wants to talk about it section. So Dan, I'll let you talk about this card that you really want to complain about.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't even thought about this card that much. I just saw a picture and my immediate reaction was, fuck this card. I don't know if cursing's okay, but here we go. I don't even know the name of the card. It's a new Azalea specialization. It says, if this has a name counter and hits, you discard all but one cards. I guess playing heavily in the Starvo meta, I've grown kind of opposed to having to be forced to discard my cards often, and just seeing another effect of that in the game made me a little upset.
It's called Judge, Jury, and Executioner, just for the record.
There we go.
very cool, man.
Yeah, it's an Azalea specialization. I think it's legendary at least, so it's like
It is very legendary.
like a tutor target, right?
Yeah, you're getting it with Knock the Death Whistle and then Memorial Grounds once you get it back, but you're not going to just draw it and play it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of another red, right? If you knock it.
Into the aggro decks, yeah. Into things like Guardian, it's even better.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because when you hit with red in the ledger, your opponent can still attack you with Crippling Crush. And when you hit with this card, your opponent cannot attack you with Crippling Crush. That's the big one.
Yeah. No, I think it's very good against the fatigue or like blockout decks or just big attack decks, but it's also really good against aggro. Like, there's no world where I want this thrown at me like late in the game. Even if they don't tutor it and they just like see it later, if it opens up Great Bow or if they flip it off the top, I never want to see this card being thrown at me with a name counter on it. I don't want to have to block. There's enough things I have to block. You're always waiting when you're playing against Azalea, just waiting for a turn I don't have to block. What turn do I not have to block?
I've become very opposed to just enjoying any part of the Azalea gameplay experience. playing into it just because of that exact statement. It really does feel like sometimes you are waiting for the ranger hand, and if they just don't find the ranger hand and instead find 5 pumps and an arrow, which is like possible with like how Death Dealer works, man, deck is just kind of crazy.
It sounds like you have firsthand experience about how that feels in a high-level match to play against an Azalea.
An Azalea that just doesn't miss and sees all 3 codecs in like the upper third of the deck, even after shuffling. Yeah, dude. Yeah, like talk all about it.
I'm sure we will soon. Okay, last little bit of news before we actually talk about the realm is we do have the battle-hardened Orlando coming up this weekend, which is super exciting because we have Yuanji casting. So we got a Runaways guy on there, which is always great. And then obviously it's being brought by the best production company that we have, the best streaming company. So you know that the production is going to be great because we have Savage Feats.
Dang right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm living it up lavish. I'm getting ready for the Orlando weather out here in Ohio. It's gonna be awesome. I'm not going to be streaming Sunday. Sunday's just like a sealed event, and Sunday's also when the coaxing is happening, which I know has like a pretty fun and engaging live stream plan. So we're just going to be covering the Battle Harden itself on Saturday, and I just have such a good time when Yanji is a part of the cast because I'm learning so much just from like sitting there and watching his expertise unfold, and just the way that he follows the match with the excitement levels of it all, and just he's very good. So I'm excited because I'm going to learn so much, even though I'm not going to get to play. So yeah, that'll be this weekend, and that's pretty much a wrap for the 2023 season. I don't think there's another. I mean, like skirmish season is done that weekend. That's the last battle hardened of the season, and then it's just everyone grinding for Squizzy and Floof for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and then you finally get a break because you've been going nonstop for the last several months. Every event, it's been great. It's awesome to have such good coverage at all of the battle hardens, even though they're smaller events, and it's been really good. So I'm looking forward to this to kind of cap out the year. But let's finally talk about Realm. That was what happened this last week. There was a 20K, a 10K, a team sealed. A lot of people didn't get to see anything of the 10K. They didn't get to see anything of the sealed. I don't even know if the people who won were announced, or the top 8 was announced besides Michael Fang winning the 10K. That's about the only thing I ever heard. I was here at home watching the stream, and I was just like, give me updates, please. I need some updates. So I am excited to hear some of the stories. We definitely want to start with Lucas, though, on the having the balls to bring Prism, which is good, and get on stream, and get the win on stream.
Yeah.
And then we never heard from you again. So if you don't mind, Lucas, can you let everyone know how your weekend went, why you brought Prism? Do you think it was a good decision? Let us know what your thoughts.
Yeah, so my weekend went all right. The 20K did not go as well as I'd hoped. I started off 3-0. I beat, obviously, Jacob Bao on stream and then Matthew Dilks on Dash.io the round after. So I'm beating some good competition with the deck on some strong decks. Unfortunately, I then proceeded to lose the next 3 games. A little bit of, decks teching for Illusionist got me, and then, I played into a Dromai, and that's not what we were looking for. But I finished off the 20K 4-3, and then I ran her back at the 10K the next day. I won the first round, and then I actually, unfortunately, lost the next 2 rounds to Dromai and another Dash. Very good player on Dash, Matt Coles. And then I won all my rounds for the rest of the tournament except for the last round where I lost to another Dash. His name is Aiden from 3 Floating. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are familiar. Good Dash player. Beat me up. So I finished the weekend 9-6 overall. I went 4-3 and then 5-3. I felt pretty good about the deck going in. I felt like I was pretty strong into a lot of matchups. Things like Assassin, Bravo, and then also Ninja I felt very favored into, specifically Katsu, and then I felt pretty good in Defy as well. Obviously, Prism has 2 weaknesses right now. The big one is Dromai, and then potentially OG Dash can be difficult, especially if their cards line up right and they can play things like High Octane and draw their poppers. But I felt like she was a good choice. She was a surprise. And even though I didn't get as much testing as I would like, I didn't play perfectly, and my deck wasn't perfect, I had a lot of fun. And the deck impressed me a lot at times. I felt like sometimes I was just doing the most powerful thing in the game, and it wasn't even close. I'd swing a Herald of or a Figment of Erudition, the other side, the Soraya. I'd draw 2 cards, and it would be like a blue card and a War Tune Herald, and I get to Luminaris and then play the War Tune Herald, and it's actually just ridiculous value plays like that. So I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see where she goes in the future with any support that she might get, and maybe a meta shift. I think she is definitely one of the strongest decks, and we could see her time in the sun be very soon.
Yeah, I know you and I worked on the Prism deck a little bit before you went to Realm, because I've been playing it as well, and I think it's a lot stronger than people think it is, especially with Lexicon, which was an okay matchup, but then also with Icelander leaving, which is really nice as well. But it's not Dromai's not a bad matchup; it's an impossible matchup. It's like 0%, right?
I think with the deck that I registered, it is pretty much 0%. I think that you can build Prism to have. It's never going to be good. It's never going to be favored. I think you can get her to maybe 30, 35, 40%, but you have to basically dedicate your entire sideboard and some portion of your main board to it, and that's just not a winning formula if you plan on beating anything else. So if you want to be 30% into Dromai and 10% into everything else, you're welcome to build your Prism deck like that. But I think it's probably better right now just to sacrifice the Dromai matchup and move on.
Do we actually know what was the Dromai representation in this kind of like post Icelander world? Because Dromai used to be like either number 1 or number 2, almost nonstop.
I believe it was the second most played deck in the 20K, if I heard right, and then I have no idea about the 10K.
Bravo was number 1, I believe.
Yes, I do remember.
I don't think we saw 10K numbers.
I don't
think we saw 10K numbers.
I'd like to know. I guess February tells us, right? If you do the
there was at least 1 Prism. I can tell you that.
There was at least 1 Prism.
There was 3 max. I saw that.
Yeah.
I know everyone got hyped when they saw Prism on stream. I was in the chat, reading all the chat while you were playing, and everyone was very excited. No, everyone was confused if you actually won the game at the end, which is always great.
I did win.
You did actually win. But I am excited to see what Prism does, especially with like the next set coming out and the heroes that are notoriously Prism is usually good into.
Yeah. Warrior is, I think, her best matchup in the game. Maybe Assassin, but Guardian as well is pretty strong if you put the slots into it. Brute, is also there. I'm sure there's some work that you can put into to make that matchup better. But she's super rewarding. She's super fun. She's really hard to play, which is all the stuff that I like in a Flesh and Blood deck. So I'm excited to play more Prism in the future.
Yeah, so maybe not the last time we see some Prism out of the Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay, so next let's go over to Dan. Dan, you brought Max this time. 5 wins Worlds. Dan says, I'm not a 5 player anymore. I'm only playing Max. And came out of nowhere. We are in, just for the background, just for the people watching, the background is we're in the Discord, like in the Runaways Discord. We're talking about what everyone's going to play at Realm. And everyone's picking the normal stuff. Dromai, we have our Levia, we have random Prism from Lucas. And then out of left field, we just have Dan. I'm playing Max. No one's ever seen him play Max. He's not tested with any of us with Max at all. It just comes in, I'm playing Max, and just starts grinding games. So, how did you come to the conclusion to play Max?
Yeah.
What did you think, and how'd your tournaments go?
Yeah, sounds good. So the landing on Max was, I guess, a little interesting. So I was, like most people, I was going to play Icelander at this event. Or not most, like a lot of people. I was pretty sure she was going to LL winning. There's like one battle hardened before the event, and she had to win exactly that one. And I was like, already convinced she would, and she did.
Which, for the record, by the way, I feel like that was amazing because it really made the realm unique in its own right. And like, what a way to not only end the year, but give us like this really unique experience of such a short window to like crack this metagame before Heavy Hitters changes it altogether. Like, I really appreciated the timing of it.
Yeah, this is the only event with this meta. I mean, I guess the Battle Hardened in Orlando, but I mean, this is the big one.
I mean, I think it caused like complete nonsense at this event, and it was amazing. Like,
hey, take that back.
I kept saying it over the weekend. Like, you have the best North American players, and we're just playing absolute jank against each other and like having a blast. Like, Lucas played Prism. I played Max. And we're not the only ones. Like, everyone was just playing the deck that they vibed with the most, and it was awesome. But yeah, so Icelander LLs. I have like 6 days after that to figure out what I'm doing. Fi was always the backup deck, as it is for my entire career, probably until he LLs. I played
The
3 games
backup
of
deck you never
Levia
play,
first.
by the way.
Say again.
So it's the backup deck you never play.
Hey, I played Fatigue like 2 tournaments ago. What do you
every,
mean?
every event starts with Dan testing Fi and then saying,
Yeah.
"This is my backup deck," and then never touching
Yeah.
it again after the first week.
No, it's the same cycle every event. Like,
Okay.
if you test Fi, you probably experience this too. Your first 2 days on Fi, you feel incredible. You feel like a god. Like you're the best Flesh and Blood player. You just attack, attack, attack. They die. Then you start hitting consistency issues, and it starts feeling bad, and you get frustrated, and you start playing worse, and then you drop the deck. I do this for every event. It takes about 4 to 5 days to get out of my system, and then I move on.
And there's always exactly 127 cards in your deck list when you're building.
Correct. But yeah, no. So at first I played 3 games of Levia because I believed in the guys and what they were saying. Like the deck is appealing to me. I think Husk and the Levia Consumed Flip are 2 of the most powerful things in Flesh and Blood right now. I played 3 games. I didn't really vibe with it. And with the short window, I wanted to try other things. I think if I had 2 weeks to a month, I would have just slammed Levia because I really did believe in that deck for this event. Then I kind of I don't know why. Like most of us, I think about Flesh and Blood way more than I should. And Max just popped in my head. I had a side conversation with Jacob Ball at some other battle harden we were at. Just talking about my love for Max and draft. And I was talking about how I don't think he was good enough for CC. And I remembered I was playing a complete jank 9 gigawatt just swing Banksy deck. And he told me no, Max is actually a really good deck. And that's kind of where we left off. And then it just popped in my head one day. I was like, wait, I want to make a suit easily. And just, that's what it was. He was expressing how easy it is to make the suit. And I never actually tried the deck. So I just jammed a couple games. I grabbed Chris Hiley's list from Worlds. And I was like, wow, this is really fun. It's very consistent. I love being able to pitch a red and boost. And now I have $3 because of hyperdrivers are the best. That was honestly it. I just had fun the first couple games and immediately realized the power of the suit. You get that out against aggro, you win the game on the spot unless you're under 6 health. Then I played some of the slower matchups and I realized that you just win if you make the suit and resolve 2 high octanes in the same turn. And I love playing decks that are fatigue resistant or have a good game plan there. Unfortunately, I didn't realize the impact of brutes fatiguing you during testing. We'll come back to that later. And Ethan was kind enough to spill the beans on his deck tech. You should check that out. His Levia deck tech is actually a very good video. But he does mention how to play against mechs in that video, which was my ultimate downfall at the event. But yeah, that's how I landed on Max. I just like the deck. It was that simple. I like the deck. I thought it was strong. I love that the team doubted me and thought I was crazy for choosing this deck. So I had some motivation to perform and be like, hey, look at this. Look at this cool thing I did.
And then you proved us wrong by top 8ing, right?
Almost. So day one was rough for me. So I lost the first 3 rounds of the 20K, which meant I was dead on the spot. And it was just the weirdest variance. It's normal to lose a game to bad luck, but it was the most narrow cases that I didn't even think could happen. It was just whiffing on 3 consecutive hands, having no red card. It was just weird stuff. My C would be the bottom 10 cards of my deck, all 3 copies. So after the 3rd loss, I was like, wow, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I made a horrible mistake and I just threw my 45K weekend away playing this silly deck that I just like a little bit. I won the next 3 rounds and then I lose the last round to a draw my. But we were full playtest mode that game. I was telling him I think you have this. I think you should play it this way this turn. He was telling me what to do. Should I pop your dragon or not? But he beat me fair and square. So I was done after that. I went back home and back to the hotel and I thought about changes for the 10K I would make. and I ultimately landed on. I subbed a boom grenade for like aggro decks and Fi. I decided I just shouldn't play that card at all. I still kept it in the deck, and then I landed on. I was playing a copy of the Mastercog.
Oh, baby.
And I do kind of like the card, but I played a test game where I made the suit and then I died because I drew it. And I'm not okay with. Say again?
I said
Oh,
great
against
game.
you.
I just had no
Yeah,
business
yeah.
winning, and then you drew a no block. Like,
Correct. And introducing a lose con to your win the game on the spot card wasn't what I wanted to do. So instead of cutting those cards for cards I was going to play, I left the boom grenade in and I swapped the master cog for a popper, and I just didn't have any plans of playing those cards. I just wanted to avoid like playing cards I didn't test. So I basically sub 60 or 78 cards for the 10K. And that event went great. I should also highlight during the 20K in all 7 rounds, I didn't build the mech suit once, which if you played the deck, it's really not that hard to make the suit. That's like kind of absurd that I went 0 for 7. But the first 4 rounds of the 10K, I make the suit all 4 games. I go 4-0. I'm feeling great. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to top with max. And then I lose the next round to a Fi. It was just a super weird game. Like, I like the Vi matchup quite a bit. It's obviously losable. They can have big Art of War turns before I build my suit. We were both just like having super weird turns that you don't expect to see in the matchup. And then I just took too long to make the suit. It is what it is. He played well. He got me.
Was it the top 8 Fi player in the end, or just a different Fi?
No, it was a different Fi.
Different.
Yeah, no, different guy. So it's an 8-round event. I'm 4-1 after that. I win the next round to go to 5-1. I now have a deterministic win in, just because of how it works. I have very good breakers if I do lose, but it's just how it works. I, of course, pair into teammate Pat Eschke, who is playing Ethan's deck. At least I know this, and I practice against my brother, who's on the same deck the night before. But they have almost an unbeatable game plan with the cards that I subbed against me. That said, we had a pretty close game. He hadn't like practiced the matchup, so he gave me his what's the hat called, Ethan?
Flesh bag, scowling flesh
He gives
bag.
me his flesh bag on like just a random turn. So I'm like internally like, oh my god, I can actually win this game. Like I have a full chance now. So I get the suit in arsenal. I get 2 high octanes in hand. I go to draw. I'm like, this is it. I get 1 chance here. I draw 2 reds. So I just pitch those cards to my pistol. I try again. He arc smashes that turn. The game's over on the spot, basically. Because he resets my drivers, and now I'm at like 8 or so health.
So was your game plan going into it to just kind of pitch a high octane turn, like high octane construct nitromechanoid all at once? Like that's your only way to win? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe with the cards I subbed, I cannot win unless I resolve the suit and 2 high octanes on the same turn with the twin drive to get to like the full action points. So like early game, I'm trying to chip.
Yeah, and to clarify, you're saying play the suit on that turn. You're saying
Correct.
high octane, twin drive. I have 4 floating, then I play a nitro mechanoid, or play the mechanoid first, whatever. But on the same turn that you're convoying, you're playing the suit.
Yes. So to do that, you need to have at least 3 hyper drivers on 2 counters.
Yeah. It almost
works. I'm pressing X for doubt right now. I don't know about this.
So the reason it works is like Levia can't really pressure me without turning on Blood Debt.
Oh yeah.
So like I have enough space to like get there some amount of the time. I think actually a good amount of the time.
Well, yeah, it never works if they have Scowling Flashback.
Correct. The issue is the flesh bag. So my game plan, if Pat didn't generously donate his flesh bag, was to keep cycling and pitch stacking until I got 4 T-bones out of the 6 in my deck in the same hand. Like I don't think you can win otherwise. So like this was my game plan. I wanted to show. So the 2 cards I didn't end up playing at all. I wanted them to be magnetic shockwaves, but I didn't have them. I had to borrow them. I didn't want to bother the guys with it, and it was actually Pat who had the copies. I think it's just like
say no anyway. Good man.
Maybe it's just like a little bit better than pitch stacking 4 T-bones, but so basically first cycle you take the hat, and then second cycle you get like an exact 6-card stack. It's like pretty narrow.
Yeah.
Not
So
gonna
I
lie.
mean, Max is favored into Levi if you just draw 4 of your 9 T-bones and then draw 3 exact cards and 2 blues in your second
And
cycle and never die.
Well, so I did beat a Levia earlier in the tournament. They subbed the Husk and they played a more aggressive game plan.
Yeah, and you just killed him with the suit.
Yeah, because it is kind of costly, right, to enact your game plan, Ethan. Like you have to be playing, you have to have all cards that block in your sideboard, so you're not playing any no blocks, and you have to play arc smashes.
Yeah, the core of the deck has to be more conservative over like the non-blocks you can run, and it also means you can't run like Mark of the Beast. And then your almost entire sideboard goes to swapping out the non-blocks for like a purely defensive package with like the Arc Smash. So not every build can just say, "Oh, I want to do this in the deck." You have to completely adjust like the entirety of how your deck is built. But I think it is the right call right now. I mean, you're hitting like 4 matchups.
Everyone should make their own call, I think.
Yeah. You're right. Try to play the game into mech. It's fun, engaging, and then they pulse wave your blood rush. Doesn't matter. It's fun, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I went X1, and then I went in and I paired the actual unwinnable matchup with the person who knows the game plan. Unlucky. I don't know. I win the next round. I finished 10th, which I felt great about. I was just super disappointed because like this is the top 8 run. No one knows how to play against my deck. Every opponent I played against, they're like, I don't know how to play against Max or what order to pick when I win the die roll. That was fun.
Close.
I had a good time though, regardless.
Unlucky.
Unlucky.
Say.
Yeah.
Well, you know who was lucky? Okay, here we go. Michael Hamilton.
Very much so. But next up, we do have Ethan, definitely the man of the hour, taking Levia to. Is that the best finish?
Well, so I hesitated
cash?
in the.
Is that the most cash Levia has ever won?
Most cash by a mile. The one thing that I was hesitant to kind of like claim was best finish or not, because technically she's gotten second at some nationals. Those nationals not being the biggest, it was Ireland and then I believe like Slovenia. So pretty small nationals, but she also then got top 8, like some larger nationals. So, it's a hard metric to say like the best finish. It'd be easy if this was a calling and then you just say absolutely it's the best finish. But this has the prize pool attached to like kind of the mid-tier callings. A 20K is right in the middle of like where callings can be 10, 20, 30. So in terms of like cash, yes, I now have the best result by far with Levia. She finally paid me back. All that blood debt turned into some real money this weekend, so I'm quite happy.
So you don't have to tell me why you brought Levia. You are Ethan, so you are bringing Levia. But you can if you want. Yes. But I would like to know how'd your day go? How'd you feel? Overall, how was your weekend?
Okay, well, the particular build of Levia that I did bring this weekend was nuanced and actually did come from a lot of testing with you, Cody, as well as Yanji, Pat, and even like some input from Jesse. The direction I ended up taking the deck, rather than just kind of slamming the same very like mid-range into like a recursion sideboard package that I just heavily prefer with Levia that I've been playing for so long, what actually kind of changed direction with the deck was input specifically from Yanji, where he complained about the blues just not doing much if you drew them together. So how do you fix the blue base to kind of play well off of itself? And that's what led me to the Tear Limb from Limb specifically, where Levia over Reinar has more blues, or blue 6s rather. So if you're trying to build around what to do in a full blue hand, there is a high likelihood that Tear Limb from Limb is still like quite live to just slam. And critically, it also pays for itself. If you draw multiples of the Tear Limb from Limb, unlike some of the other non-blocks that can be nombos, like Diabolic Offering, looking at you awful card, Double Reckless Swing, that kind of deal, the Tear Limb from Limb is a very playable effect that unlocks your turn and pays for itself. A lot of your turns, and you can see this as games played out on stream, a lot of your turns you can just take off, especially the early game. Just wait a second, set your arsenal, block, feel your graveyard, and then take an actual 5-card hand play with Tear Limb from Limb, with Bloodrush Bellow, whereas normal Levialists don't really get to play that way. A 5-card hand is something they don't use very often. Was really what like changed this deck entirely for me. It's a play pattern that's like really fun to execute on. You really felt like you're playing the game. You're really engaging with a lot of like heavy blocking cycles into just finding a window and then smacking unbelievable amounts of damage your opponent's way and catching them off guard because they also don't know the ceiling of a Tear Limb for Limb, where all of a sudden your turn becomes like Claw, Swing Big, a 19 damage 4-card play is just like insane. So I was really happy with the deck. I thought that addition was really, really cute. And then Shade Death Hydra had its own perks in this kind of solve of not needing the recursion package anymore to still be insurance versus a deck that is trying to block you out. You are just naturally pitching like blue convulsions, now some Shade Death Hydras to just come in for 14 dominate is really the game plan with a ceiling of 26 off of Tear Limb for Limb, which is
The
also
coolest
nuts.
play, the coolest play in the game right
Yeah.
now. That's like relevant
You
in
were
my
so
opinion.
close.
Yeah.
You were that there was that one game on
Yeah.
stream. You were so close.
Yeah. No, so one of the cool things about those like pitch stacks is they're not really pitch stacks. You're now just building a blue and a yellow base that is all naturally so strong together that the only thing you need to keep note of is, okay, did I actually find time to pitch a Convulsions? Did I actually find time to pitch a Shaden? And all of that is kind of naturally already close to the cards they want to be close to, which is a lot of resources. And I mean, that's what you're pitching every turn anyway. And it's a really unique axis for an aggro deck like Levia to play on, because if like a Fi is trying to build an endgame like that, they need to take real off turns to pitch in a red, pitch in like an Art of War, whereas they don't really want to be doing that. They want to be burning through all this juice for a cycle, and then their blues can potentially teeter out. Levia is like the complete opposite. She burns hard first cycle, and then her blues and yellows are just like absolute endgame insurance. It's incredible. So you just like really step on the gas. It's very thematic. You step on the gas and then don't let up. It's like impossible for your deck to let up, especially if you kind of get your clunkers out of the way early and just refuse to play the game when you are given the clunky hands, and then kind of assess the threats in your deck, kind of the ghost stack of knowing that if you double drew an Art of War, that can't happen again, right? And just like kind of feeling where your deck is power wise and just playing it out. Oh, it's such a fun deck to play, and I really thought this build was unlike anything else I'd played before, and had a really good plan into the mechs with this like pure fatigue package where, especially into like Dash IO, Aggro Dash, and Max, you almost have a buy. Like, I'm not going to call it 0% because they can still assemble like nuts turns into you, but it is just so hard for a mech deck to beat you when you are doing nothing but blocking, arc smashing, swinging claw. You're presenting them an impossible problem almost. And just to know that you're hitting 3 matchups with a sideboard like that was incredible.
I think Pat said he got 7 wins over the weekend just due to the sideboard.
Yeah. He was telling me.
He had some
Pat,
silly stat in the 20K that was like he beat like only mech and lost everything
Yep.
else. Like
which is a testament to like how easy it is to just say you need to beat me because I'm presenting you with like an unlosable scenario. So like it's now on you. Like you got to figure something out because like there's no way I just like lose to my deck, right? Like when you play the fatigue version like that, Levia can't just self implode, and that's huge. But yeah, I across worlds and the 20K, I think I also got maybe like 5 free wins into mech from that, and they're just not close. So yeah, felt good with the sideboard, felt good with the overall game plan anyway, and obviously felt good with like the reps that I have on Levia going in, and then also felt good because this is a bit of that just have fun meta game. Nothing's really solved yet. People even the caliber of Dan are just showing up with Max, So I felt like it was Levia's time, but at the same time, I was really there for the cosplay. Like I knew I was gonna probably have like a decent run. I did pretty well with Levia and CC at Worlds X2, but my expectation was not a top. My expectation was like a decent run, maybe get like top 16, and then just have fun at the cosplay and hang out with friends. So as the day developed, and I just kept getting win after win, I felt like this was maybe it, because all of day one, I was having just incredible games of Flesh and Blood. It started with a game against Adori. That was just the most mid-rangey, beautiful game you can play in Flesh and Blood. And it was a very solid win, and that just catapulted me into like a really good day where I ended up 5-2. I'd have to pull up the matchups specifically to remember them all because it was a lot of rounds, people. we're talking like 14 rounds into then the extra 2 I played in Top Cut. But I know I beat a Dorinthia round 1, a Katsu round 2, a Phi round 3. I then played against Brian Lorenz, a former teammate of mine, where he was on Tree Frog Dash on stream. And this was my wake-up call that like games are still losable, because even though I really felt like that game was like 90% of the time in my favor, it came down to like that critical mistake of not checking in with myself, of like, how do I lose the game? I knew how I was going to win the game. I had that pitched since like, turn 3, like the Convulsions Hydra. But what I didn't check in with myself was, how do I potentially lose between like right now and like the 2 hands it's going to take for me to get there. And Levia is a deck where you constantly need to check in on that kind of stat. And I ended up losing the game because I basically swapped my arsenal. I arsenaled the Hydra instead of arsenaling the Convulsions, and just threw that game away. But it was a good wake-up call, because that was one of those situations truly where it's like I lost the game, and it wasn't even like a variance play. It was like a skill issue, right? So I appreciated that loss, and especially because it was against Brian, who, like I said, former teammate. Then I played against Majin Bay round 5 on Kano, and this was a hilarious game because I can't help it. If I assume the matchup's like an auto loss, I'm just going to get like a little salty about it. And Kano is supposed to be like an auto loss for how this deck was built. My sideboard is not built to add more draw discard, more proactive graveyard fill. It's there for mech. So I just sat down and basically said, all right, Majin, like, congrats on, congrats on the win. But we play our game, and I tap out on like turn 2, and I have like it's a Blood Rush turn, but it's like a terrible Blood Rush turn. Like it's Claw Wrecker Romp. So like you never want to do that. And I've tapped myself out of all resources. I'm at like 32 or something. And he goes, "Oh, what are you at? 32? Oh, okay. GG. I have game." He goes through his combo, and he goes Lesson in Lava, Kano, Ragamuffins, swaps the Wildfire on top, plays the Wildfire, resolves the first Kano, and then realizes, oh my god, I was supposed to Kano, lessons Kano, Wildfire, and instead he lessons Kano. So he just sits there and he's like, I think I've lost. Because everything's committed at this point. His full hand, his Storm Starters, everything. So sure enough, the combo doesn't deal 32, it deals like 18 or whatever. And then I win on the next turn. So that was just, hey, I punted on stream, I'll take a punt into me. So I take the win against Kano, which is really fortunate because I would have assumed that was just like an auto loss otherwise. So I'm feeling ecstatic because I'm still X1 at this point, even though I had like assumed X2, right? And it was just a trade of salt because I went into that one pretty unhappy, and then we went out of it with Majin pretty unhappy, and he even kind of sat there at the end. He's like, let me sit with this one, So let me sit with this one because obviously I was excited at the end of it. So that was just a nice little spark of joy in the middle of the run. Then round 6, I played against Yuki on Bolton, and this one was a unfortunate loss on not only my end, but a very fortunate draw sequence on her end. I won the die roll, I believe, and chose to go second, that's for sure. And my hand was very unplayable. It was quad blue, with the only playable blue being Deadwood Rumbler. So my only line really, because, it all started with her attacking into me, and I had all non-blocks was the start of it, right? So I have to literally say no blocks into like her Bolt of Courage, and just like 8 some free damage, and I draw up, and like my hand does not cycle well at all. It's like 2 blue Deadwood Rumbler, a Doomsday, and maybe the last one was like a Slytherin or something. I forget. It definitely wasn't a Tearlim from Limb. So I'm looking at my hand, and it's just like, man, this hand does not play. It has to be Scab's Angle, or we just kind of do nothing. So I roll Scabs, and it hits a 3. And I think about it, and knowing the Bolton matchup, you don't really get room to roll Scabs a lot, because they are constantly like taking trades with you. So they don't really give you like an, oops, here's your full hand moment. So I decide to go ahead and just break Gamblers, because in all the matchups I played with Bolton, truly you roll Scabs like maybe twice in that matchup. So I figured, you know what, there's like incredible payoff if I do hit here, because I can turn my turn into like at least 12 damage going second, because it'll be like Deadwood Slithering or like Deadwood Claw, something decent. So I break Gamblers, and it's a 1. I go, okay, great. I can't filter my hand at all. I can't filter it at all. I'll just like Arsenal and keep these 3 non-blocks. Go ahead. And then the game just catapulted anyway into Yuki before her second Tunic counter, right? So this is like by turn 5, has developed Soul of Arena and played all 3 Luminas. So honestly, if there was a game for me to like have bad variance, I'll take it as that game. I don't think that game was winnable regardless, just because of how awful, or rather how good her draws were compared to mine. That was just a game I think I was going to lose no matter what, regardless of the bad variance on my end. There was a unique moment in that game where if Soul Harvest was not just a shadow action, but also a brute action, I could have come in for 18 with a Tearlin for Limb play. And if that was possible, after her like third Lumina, when she had like 7 soul developed, I actually could have won the game. But it is a shadow attack, not a brute attack. So Tearlin for Limb did not apply to Soul Harvest and had to take a different line. So that one bugs me now because Soul Harvest is like obviously categorically worse than Soul Reaping, and then it's like not even reaching new heights with like the Tearlin for Limb inclusion. The card is still just like it's okay. It's not the showstopper I wish it was, especially with like Boltons hanging around. But there we go. So that was a loss. And then my last round of day 1, I played into a Bravo friend of mine, Anthony Vero, and just won that game pretty easy. Then day 2 with draft, I was in a pod with Yuki, Yanji, Naib, Nathan Crawford, some pretty big freaking names. And not to harp too much on like how poorly this draft went, Bright Lights just like it does not click with me at all. I meet Yanji in the O2 bracket, which is awful because team kill, and we're both like O2, whichever one of us loses is like actually dead. And I felt just tilted out of my mind because I was the only dash in the pod. There were 5 max, 2 Teklo. I was the one dash. So like no way was I supposed to be the O3. Like no freaking way. And yet I really felt like it was coming. But Yanji and I play our game, and I do win. So that reinvigorated me a bit because he gave me a bit of a pep talk of like, hey, look, man, you're still live. Like, reel it back in. You never have to draft Bright Lights again. Get over it. Get over it. Just lock in your CC wins. And boy, did I. Because then, to wrap up the last 4 rounds of CC, because this event was like so freaking long, I had to win out. And I did. I rolled through a Katsu, an OG dash, it was Matt McInnes. He was on like actual boost plan, so just fatigued him out. And then another Katsu, this time another team kill. It was Naib, so I took him down. He just sideboarded off just the worst possible into me. He brought in reinforced line and a race face. It was just not much of a game. And then into my winning in round 14 versus the undefeated player from day 1, Cody Reddy, on Dromai. And he wins the die roll, puts me going first. I pass the turn. He decides to Seekers, and I have a hand that can at least throw 6. And I'm like, you know what? I'll try to punish. Maybe he gives me a bunch of 2 blocks because he already activated Seekers. I throw like my Slithering or whatever it was. And then he ends up using Fate Foreseen and activating Furnace. I'm like, well, oh my god, like this game's already looking so bad. He has filtered his entire hand with like 2 ops now with Seekers and Fate. He's got 2 Ash on board. My Arsenal's not super strong. And then his turn 1, he gold into tomes, into Tumultize, hits my Scab Skins. So I'm tilted out of my mind at that point. I'm just sitting there like, this is my winning in, and I don't get to play the game. This is unreal.
I know how that feels.
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, that was probably worse because it was Pat on your end. This was just, not to call Cody some random, but like I didn't owe him anything, And so I'm sitting there and just, at least I can pop the Tomultai, right? And so that's at least passable. And my turn ends up being a bit of like a YOLO Tearlin from Limb play because I'm not on like a full hand. It's like only 3 cards. But I end up hitting Swing Big, or rather getting a Swing Big off. So there we go. Like my first real turn is 16 damage. And that actually set the bar for like the next 6 turns or so, never dropping below 15 damage. I just had insane draws after that first like awful start to the game. It was like not even Blood Rushes. It was like 3 wired Art of Wars. It was Tearlin for Limbs. It was 2 Blood Rushes in particular. I got him down to 5 life before he developed a single dragon, right? And then the turn he finally develops a Chromai passing, my hand is like all blues anyway, so I throw a Blue Dread Screamer into Chromai, claw the passing, and just move on. And then we kind of play like a mid-range game until I finally close with the last Blood Rush. So, holy moly. Like if I can't even call that game like that's a different axis of luck, right? or that's not scab skins carrying it all. I didn't have them; they were gone. It was just like the actual highs of all the busted enablers in that deck. Spoiled Skull in particular was an all-star in that matchup because I had played a pulping turn, slammed this poor guy for like pulping claw 6, and then Spoiled Skull got the pulping right back, pulping claw attack. Like it was just, oh, it was so nonstop. I felt, yeah, there's nothing he could do, nothing he could do. And then that locked me in for top 8. Levia, 7th seed. What's up?
You didn't think you were locked. I remember
Oh, that's
after the
true.
last round, I walk up to you and I'm like, because going into that round, you were like, "This is a sure win," and like, I win in. And then I walk up to you and you just have this like look of dread on your face, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you lost!" And you're like, "No, I won." And everyone keeps telling me I made top 8, but I don't think that's right at all. And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like he's like, "I think my breakers are garbage. I know I'm gonna get 9th. I'm locked for 9th. There's just no chance."
Yeah.
I walk back, I play my 10K game, and we're listening like on the overhead, and it's like 7th place Ethan Van Sant. I'm like, what is this dude talking about? Like
Well-
he's fine.
Well, dude,
And then the
math got
celebrations
weird.
begin.
Well, look, it got weird because like people were telling me not all X4s make it, and so that spiraled me into like the, oh well, my breakers are bad. But then some people are like, no, it was a 32 cut, so like it's going to be clean. Every X4 makes it. Then some people were like, oh, but there were all these draws, and there was the 5-man pod in like the drafted day 2. Like now it's like, not all of them make it, and just everyone was telling me a different thing, and I was already just like such a mix of emotions from just the tumultuous roller coaster that is playing Levia that I decided to settle on like the low expectation end.
You
Just
just
like
decided to completely doom it.
yeah, just like, you know what, like I'm just not top 8. I'm just not gonna pretend that that's the reality unless it like actually happens. And then of course it actually happened. So that was the high, right?
That is such an awesome feeling though, when like you think you're dead and you think it's like low percenter, and then you hear your name at the end.
Yeah, that might have
so
happened
good.
to a certain other individual at a recent tournament.
Yes. Except you were convinced I was locked.
I did tell you you were locked. But
Yeah, I didn't believe though.
yeah, I just like walk up to Dan like, "Hey, you're locked." He's like, "No, I'm not." He just
don't give me the
refuses
hope.
to believe me.
I can't take it if it's not true.
Dude, I was scrambling.
Yeah, it was a good time.
But then, speaking of a good time, the night just ended up getting better because, as we found out, my round 1 opponent is Michael Hamilton. And not to say I have beef with Michael Hamilton, but I have this like, just there's all this pain that I've internalized from when I was just a youngster who walked up to him at Pro Tour Lille when he was on Oldhim and I was on Levi, and I was like, "Hey, Michael, this matchup's really good for me. I'd love to like play it with you sometime, so I can like show you how good Levia is, hardy har." And he goes, "Okay." We end up playing in a lobby, and he beats me like 6-0. It's just like the most horrible game of my life. And he was trying to be so nice about it, and he's like, very value oriented. So he's like, "That was a good 9-point turn cycle. Good job, Levia." But couldn't actually put together any kind words to say because like the deck was just so bad back then, and I was self-destructing on like just all these different fronts. But I had gone into it thinking I was gonna like smoke him because I had been beating all these like local old hymns, and he was the Michael Hamilton. So I had an itch to scratch in that regard. I wanted some redemption. I wanted to come back with a vengeance and beat a lesser Guardian, Bravo, with new Levia. See that? And so we practiced the matchup at home that night and felt really good about it. I really felt like almost, regardless of any way he decided to play the matchup, it was going to be favorable for me. So then day of in top 8 were the third match to go on camera. And it was an incredible game. Like truly, that game being on camera showed not how easy Levia has it. That game was not a stomp by any means, even though I would say it's like a good matchup. But it showed what a horrible start, what like one of the worst starts imaginable, what it takes to kind of overcome that and still understand like where Levia has angles to win and attack the game, and then also restraint where when you have momentum, how do you not lose the game? Because there were a lot of moments where I could absolutely have just said, "Oh, I have Blessed out. I'm going to roll scabs every turn," but I actually lose to a double one on like so many of these scenarios. So I just wouldn't roll, even though it looked hot in moments. I was only rolling if it was like truly still a favorable scenario, regardless of the outcome, even a double one. versus the restraint required to like not risk it. So I thought that game was fantastic. Really came out to be a good showing on camera. A lot of highs. Michael Hamilton, lucky soul, he rolled like 6 6s or like 4 6s for me. I also did roll a 1, but re-rolled it into a 4, which was a fantastic way to close the match. And he was just such a pleasure to play against. So it ended up being one of the highlights of my Fab career. Is just like that game on camera. It was awesome. Then I got to play Brody in top 4, and that game I love playing against Brody. I enjoy it when it's not in tournament because there's banter involved and like we really get to like pick each other's brain. In tournament, he is a bit of a different beast, as we all know. But
Really?
regardless, I still do enjoy like playing matches with Brody. I feel like I learn a lot. And then this match in particular, he kind of went into it saying, I want to talk to you, regardless of how the match goes, about every decision I'm about to make because I don't know this matchup at all and I'm going to like have to figure it out on the fly. And so, you know, I'm in. Like, I love those kind of experiences with high level players. So we play our game, and sure enough, he's in the tank like literally every turn. And he even warns me in situations where I'm like full passing. I'm like, can I just drop my hands or are you going to do anything? He goes, I just want to look at my hand before you pass. I'm like, okay, like we're just going to take every moment here. So it ends up being a bit of a slow game, but I don't take my time in a very critical turn cycle where I kind of miss the just the potential for like what's worst case next turn. Worst case next turn in this particular moment was getting hit by red in the ledger. So I take a turn currently that does not play around that kind of like worst case next outcome next turn, where I basically end up IPing myself because I trap my arsenal on a boneyard that I could have played, and then if I get hit with red next turn, there's no IP because I'm still blocking a card, playing 2 cards, resetting arsenal. So I played a very tight value game up until that one turn. I kind of messed it up, and then sure enough, I pee myself because it is red next turn. And even though the game ends up looking pretty close, I felt like it was almost like impossible to recover from that moment. But it still looked like a good game on camera, and showed that levia is just oh my god, she can do some really cool things. Getting consumed off in the face of a sleep dart like that just looked so cool. Playing around his rain
Oh,
razors, that just looked
I have.
so cool. Like
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to watch the game back. Did he sleep dart you and then you flipped on a turn where you banished?
oh yeah, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things doing in the past. Back in Lexi meta, I would do that on the Via. People would say, "Oh, sleep dart's great. You take all this blood debt," and then I'm like, "Endless maw for 9, flip the consume, like go."
brilliant. Yeah,
It's
I
pretty
had a
sweet.
Bloodrush turn, Claw into Hungering
Oh,
Slaughter Beast flip. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful
oh,
thing.
yeah,
And I actually, it was all because I baited him into forcing a rain with a Scabs block. Whereas, I mean, you can just go back and watch it. We don't have to get into it. But it was
yeah.
a really tight technical game from both of us, other than like that one turn where I just didn't think of next turn cycle, which is something that Brody is going through the Matrix and like considering every play like that. And the one time that I did not was where he gets an advantage. So, hey, it just fuels the fire. I'd love to play in more of these top cuts to that kind of extreme level of play. I think I can handle it. And I think Levi can handle it as well, which is really something
Definitely.
because she just feels incredible in this meta. So, uh, yeah, it was just a great run. Just made top
Yeah.
4 as freaking Levi. Got second in the cosplay. Just had a lot of fun all weekend. Just proving doubters wrong across the world. Getting to like play on stream instead of like being the streamer. Just so many highlights. It was good. It was good.
I will say, playing in top cuts at Flesh and Blood events are the most fun Flesh and Blood you will ever have.
Yeah.
You
Oh
are the
yeah.
most
Oh yeah.
engaged. You're most in the moment. It is my favorite thing about playing Flesh and Blood is playing legitimately top 8 games.
Yeah.
And I think everyone I've talked to who have played in top 8 games, the same feeling. It's just
Yeah.
you're super locked in. You're in the zone. You're fully engaged, and as soon as you're done with your top 8, it's like, when can I play a top 8 game again?
Yeah. It's just
It's
such
like
a
that
special
fun.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I will say my favorite part of watching Ethan's run was the second time that Hamilton rolled a 6, and if you watch the camera, you hear there's like a little bit of shuffling in the background, and then Ethan just turns and starts having a conversation with obviously the judge that's sitting next to him, because the judge just starts testing the tower right after the other 6. And I like sent you a message. I was like, hey, was the judge like testing the tower right after that second 6? And he's like, yeah. He started testing it, just kept failing rolls. And it's like, yeah, he's not Michael Hamilton. Hamilton rolls 6s, but
Yeah.
everyone else rolls 1s.
Yeah, they got a little cagey about that. Like brutes just can't have it nice. I guess they think we're cheating or something. Yeah, he tested the dice tower. He rolled a bunch of my dice as well. I'm like, dude, I rolled a double 1 this event. I only rolled like maybe 1/6 the entire event. Like it's just dice. There's highs and lows, and my God, like Michael Hamilton's just a lucky son of a gun because he rolled 4 of them. Sometimes it happens, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, your other game on stream before that, you rolled, I think, no extra action points the entire game.
No, I think it was like 6 rolls. I hit like once. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just dice.
Yeah. But you have issued in the dice tower meta. I saw in chat, everyone's like, I'm buying a dice tower. I'm buying a dice tower. I'm buying it. Where can I buy that exact dice tower from?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. Overall, great weekend. To wrap everything up, I'll just ask, what was everyone's favorite thing from the weekend outside of playing the game? If you have any favorite moments or favorite things.
I know what Dan's answer is, but I'll let him go.
Am I first? Okay. I'm going to do a couple of them. I'm going to go really fast. First, I have to shout out the Realm Games and Keith specifically. Like, this event was so much fun. I think it was my most fun event of the year. It just felt like the perfect way to close out the year. Like, everyone grinded super hard for Worlds, and now we're just gathering back up to celebrate this game we love, playing our jank, prism, and max decks, and competing against each other. Yeah, shout out to Realm. Event was awesome, well run. It felt amazing, losing a 20K and then immediately playing a 10K, and then bubbling the 10K and immediately playing a 5K. Can't beat that. I'm blanking on my moments. The North Market was amazing. Such good food. I ate more ice cream this weekend than I think the rest of the year combined. They had this like crazy good pineapple upside down cake flavor. I'm never going to forget about it. I'll go with my event highlight being I played a game against Edward Knight, I think. I think it's the first time we played each other. But I was like, he was taking on something and I was like feeling lightheaded. So I grabbed a snack and then he passed. I was like, do you mind if I just eat this protein bar quick? And he's like, yeah, go for it. I'm actually pretty hungry too. I was like, oh, do you want one? And then we kind of replicated Lucas and Brody's PTI top 8. We like took he was presenting a pulverize when I clearly had my suit the next turn, or I just made the suit. And he has buckle in his deck. So it was like a pivotal moment of, am I going to block with my mech suit and risk getting buckled later? Or am I going to take this pulverize and give him another turn? I'm at like 16. But yeah, we just have a nice little snack break. We hang out for a couple minutes. We chat about our careers, that kind of thing. And then we proceed to finish the game.
Eating during a game is a special experience.
Yeah, it was honestly very nice. It was such a good break.
Yeah.
Top 8.
Yeah, eating during a finals match.
Yeah,
at least I didn't waste the caster's time, to be fair. We were not streaming or anything.
Lucas, what about you? What do you got? Anything? Nothing?
I mean, I agree with everything Dan said. After doing all the prep that we did for Worlds and being very, for lack of a better term, like sweaty and, super hardcore with our testing, it felt nice to, at least for me, lay back a little more and just play a hero that I enjoyed. Obviously, I still put work into it. It was still a 20K, but when I got there, the vibe was very casual for a 20K that has 100 some players in it. Is actually one of the craziest events because you didn't have to have that good of a record compared to some other events to top 8, and so it was like I really don't want to say it was easy to top 8 because it was literally just like 100 of the actual best players in the United States, but it was like an event that if you put a lot of work into, it's very easy to get rewarded. And everybody was still just playing these like stupid janky decks and like just having fun. Like getting to see everybody in the US like playing really, really good quality games of Flesh and Blood with all these different heroes that we hadn't seen before. And it felt like Flesh and Blood in like its truest form where the best players did the best. We saw, specialists especially do well, like Ethan, obviously playing Levia and finally getting rewarded when she's in a good spot and he just knows how to play her better than everybody else. So he gets rewarded. And then getting to hang out with all the Runaways. Obviously it was awesome all weekend, getting to hang out with friends. And then I also had a lot of fun during the Team Sealed event on Sunday. I played with fellow teammate Shane Martin and then a close friend of ours, Lucas Birch. We were all in the same hotel room, so we played together, and our whole idea was if we don't do well, we just get to go home because we drove there together. And then we ended up actually doing very well. We lost in top four, but we got some invites to the 50K next year, as well as some cash. So the event was awesome. I had a lot of fun hanging out with friends. Going to North Market in Columbus was amazing. The food was very good. The ice cream in particular was amazing. And then, getting to see a bunch of friends do well. I mean, the whole top 8 of the 20K was literally just 8 of my friends. So getting to see them all do well, and then, getting to see Brody win, and then, Ethan top 4, and then even the 10K, just a bunch of people I knew and loved doing well. It was pretty sweet.
Shout out
So
Pat
I
Fino,
echo
right?
everything Dan
Mhm.
said, where this was one of the best events, if not the best event of the year for me,
Mhm.
even though I didn't do well.
I think we also got to remember to congratulate, congrats to Brody on the 20K win, Michael Fang
And
on
Michael,
the 10K win.
Yeah.
These guys
Yeah, they just
crush
can't
this
stop.
event as they do.
Yeah.
And congrats to Fino for top 8ing the 10K, as well
Yep.
as Pat, who also top 8ed the 10K.
Mhm.
And
Yep. 3 runaways over the 2 events in top 8. Not too shabby.
Yeah, 4 in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan, what about you? Anything special?
Yeah. I think just three main highlights. First of all, I got to shout out the cosplay and Sandra and my mother who helped with that. I don't know how to sew, so my mom had actually come to visit for Thanksgiving and spent an extra day to help me make the tail for the Dread Screamer cosplay, and then Sandra helped transport it and bring it to me for the, because I'm playing all day, and then the cosplay is randomly at the end of the day she drives in, gets the cosplay straight to me, and then carried my tail through the parking lot. Luckily, she didn't stand out as much because GalaxyCon was also going on, so she blended in, carrying the suit around. But that was just a lot of fun to participate with Flesh and Blood, another, just that whole celebration of the game just transcends the tabletop, right? There's also the cosplay, there's the just the dinners afterwards, and that cosplay group in particular was just really fun to engage with. It was Diana, it was Rachel, who showed up independently, and then Carolina and Elaine did a great job um, setting up the 3 floating guys, for example, all in gear as well. So it was just a really great group to be proud of. I love the pictures that came out of that. And then there were 2 kind of team moments as well that were really unique to me, because sure, I've been part of the Runaways since the Nat season, but I was never really the focus of a lot of the support because I wasn't the one doing really well. But to see what the support is like when you are the one performing was really special. The night before the top 8, seeing how the whole team rallied, drove out to the Airbnb just to run me through the Michael Hamilton game, study the deck list, talk through um, just anything he could be thinking of, and then counter to
Give some choice words about Michael Hamilton's play style.
right. Well, even that, right? The more people that are in the room, the more people can start to dissect not just what a Bravo can do, but what Michael Hamilton can do. And with the experience of everyone having played against him and all that was really, really special. So that was just a standout moment, because I think as a solo actor, I just wouldn't have that. Not to say I wouldn't win without it. I do think that matchup is very good, but just it was that extra level of insurance that let me sleep easy instead of having nerves going into the day. And then there was the kind of turnaround moment where after draft I was so down on myself, going 1-2, thinking man, I just suck at the game. I did everything right. I drafted my seat. I'm the one dash player. My deck is good. Brody said my deck is OP, and I'm 0-2. What is wrong with me? And Yanji gave me a pep talk that really snapped me back into focus. Just more so around, it's not that I'm bad, it's that there are now just new angles in which I need to improve. And it's just a constant cycle of not just deterministically saying I'm one way or another at the game, but truly picking apart why a loss happened, why a play mistake was made, and then just knowing that that's where I improve for next time. Because there isn't that much to improve on if I'm just going to stick with Levia nonstop. I'm, in theory, hitting a plateau there, and so rather than calling myself bad at draft and just attacking how to get better at draft on a different angle, was a really important part of my day. And it really just came down to Yanji highlighting that I just don't get to play in person a lot, and so a lot of my analysis for like gauging power level from different seats in a draft pod is lacking because playing online, you don't pair the way you're supposed to. You just kind of pair based on record, whereas like in person, you could. Anyway, he's a good person, a good coach,
Coaches be coaching. Yeah.
and it really turned me around. So shout out to him for that. And then yeah, it was a great weekend. Thanks to all the viewers as well out there, not only listening to this but also everyone who watched the stream, uh, because just going back and reliving the chat's experience is really fun. So I've enjoyed that quite a bit.
Awesome.
Cody, anything from your end?
I did enjoy watching Levia finally get up there and start taking people down. I was hanging out with my girlfriend. I'm sitting in the bed with my phone, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I have to watch this game. Ethan is playing against Hamilton right now, and he's playing Levia, and I have to watch this game right now. And she doesn't know what any of these terms are, but she's just like excited for me because I'm like, yeah, this is one of my teammates. He hasn't like topped with Levia, and it's like he's doing it against like the best player, the best player in the world. And she's like, that's cool. And I'm just like sitting here watching. I'm like cheering by myself, sitting on the bed. It was great. So that was a fun weekend. I got to be the cheerleader. Not something I normally do, but it was a fun
You were
weekend
very good at it.
watching all the guys.
It's kind of fun though, right? That was me for Worlds.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of fun. Don't necessarily want to do it again. Want to be in there playing. Can't be letting the same people win all the time. We got to get in there and mix it up a little bit. But this has been great. Thanks everyone for listening to our first podcast. But we have to go. Lucas needs to go to bed. He's a young boy, so we got to get out of here. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, we're getting
so
rid
long.
of the
Goodbye.
envelope,
Seven.
but
Bye.
Envelope
We could do
in
here is go ahead and
darkness.
play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of envelope and darkness.